Hey everybody, it's Tim from Tadabase here, and this is inventory management plus warehouse management. In the last Tadabase Blueprints video, we covered building an inventory management application from start to finish. That application that we built serves as a base template that we can now use to add on more features and more structure to suit our needs. So today what we're going to be talking about is how do you then add onto the application in order to display and manage warehouses, facilities, and storage locations. The foundational knowledge and the techniques that we learned in the previous video are going to apply directly to this video, and it should only take us a few minutes to add this on, which really demonstrates the power and functionality of Tadabase and how quickly you can scale your application to meet additional needs. So as I've been talking, I hope you've been taking a look at the diagram that we have here on screen. Now, hopefully this looks familiar from the previous video as we discuss kind of the basic structure and how this application should work and how it should operate. As a little refresher, I'll go over this one more time and then we'll just talk quickly about what we need to add here in order to manage our warehouses, our facilities, and our storage locations. In order to power our inventory management application, we are splitting our inventory records into two data tables. We have an inbound inventory data table and we have an outbound inventory data table. Inbound inventory data table consists of records that are indicative of products that we have ordered from suppliers that we have received into our facility. The outbound inventory data table consists of records of products that have then moved out of our facility, whether that's through like a customer order or maybe some sort of external transfer. Combination of these two data tables then allows us to perform calculations on our products data table to determine how many products we have on hand at any given time. When we are creating our outbound inventory records, we are attaching a connection to an inbound inventory record and we are pulling the connected product and supplier from that selected inbound inventory record and saving it for the outbound inventory record. We use that concept here again by adding additional data tables to our application. In order to build this, we're going to add two additional data tables into our application. The first one is going to be our warehouses, and this is going to let us know kind of which actual physical area that our products are being stored in. Okay, so we may have multiple warehouses. You might have one warehouse, but within that warehouse, there's going to be storage locations. So we'll make a second data table and we'll call this storage locations. And these two new tables are going to power this whole warehouse management style concept. Now in this diagram, I'm placing these two rectangles here to represent the data tables that we're going to create, and they will be as connection fields for our inbound inventory record. When we create these inbound inventory records, we're going to be connecting to a warehouse, and we'll also be connecting to a storage location. That way, for every single inbound inventory record that we create, we'll know what building or facility it lives in, and specifically what bin or shelf or room it lives in. Now, for the outbound inventory table, we're going to do the same thing where we're going to take both of these data tables and we're going to create connections inside the outbound inventory table as well. Similarly to the product and the supplier, when we select the inbound inventory record that we want to connect to for the outbound inventory record, we are going to extract the connected data from our inbound inventory table. So to go over that one more time, we have created two additional data tables inside of our application, and we are going to create two additional connection fields for those tables on our inbound inventory data table. In our outbound inventory data table, we are going to place two identical connections, one to warehouses and one to storage locations, so that when we select our inbound inventory record, we can then extract the connected product, supplier, warehouse, and storage locations. The logic behind this is pretty simple. What we are really trying to determine is when we create that outbound inventory record, we want to make sure that we're pulling it from the warehouse and the storage location that it actually exists in. So if you have a product that exists in two different storage locations, we want to make sure that we are pulling it from the intended storage location. All right, so that's enough diagramming for now. Let's go into the builder and we're going to start working on this warehouse management module or add-on to our inventory management application. Now, as mentioned previously, the inventory management application that we built in the last video serves as a standalone application. It is a base template that you could use right now without making any additional modifications. The nice thing about the way we built it is that it does now exist as a template. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually install the template, which is basically going to just create a new version of the application that we built in the last video. And we'll call this warehouse management or inventory management plus warehouse. We'll import our template data so that we have all the records that we were familiar with last week, and we'll get started on building this particular feature. We'll start by creating our two additional data tables. The first one being warehouses, and the next one being storage locations. Now, I realize I'm using the term warehouse. However, this could be more generalized for your use case. It could be something like facilities or buildings. It's really up to you. But warehouses, we're going to use that term for now. But I just want you to be clear that it's kind of interchangeable with whatever term fits your organization best. Now, for designing the actual data tables, we don't need a ton of information here, at least to start with. Our warehouses will have some sort of identifier, like a name, and then maybe we want to add an address, right? So that we know where this actual facility or this warehouse is. And that might be it for the time being. We really just need to know what building it exists in. Now, it's also worth mentioning that you might only have one building, and that's fine. What we're going to do is we are then going to narrow things down into the storage locations data table to indicate where in the building your inventory is being stored. So for example, if you only have one warehouse or one facility, one building, then maybe you have a storeroom, right? Maybe you have a storeroom where you're displaying your products that are for sale, and you could then, actually keep some of your inventory there. Maybe you keep your inventory in a back room. Okay, that could be another option that you could select from. Or maybe you have a more advanced warehouse system in place where you actually have bins and shelves where you're storing all your products, in which case you could then start to input all of the various bins and shelf numbers, such as A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, so on and so forth. Okay, so you can create this table and store the data as you see fit. The point is that all these records really represent are individual storage locations inside of a building. So we'll add just two more. So we have A1, A2, B1, and B2, and then we have our storeroom and our back room. I think that's fine to work with for now. We're going to go back to our warehouses table here, and we'll just make sure that we actually add a facility or maybe two facilities that we could work with during this build out for the application. So for keeping with the theme of our actual kind of tech themed application here, we will create two warehouses. The first one will be a circuitry hub warehouse. And we'll make sure that we have an address here so that we can actually see where our warehouse is. So we'll just add some random industrial kind of areas in Los Angeles here. And for our second warehouse, we'll just call this, how about Tech Galaxy Storage Depot? Sure. And we'll make sure that we have an address for this building here as well. All right, so now we have our two warehouses and our storage locations that can be used inside of those warehouses. The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to create our connection fields inside the inbound and the outbound inventory data tables. We'll start with the inbound inventory data table, and we'll add a new connection to warehouse and a second connection to the storage location. Moving to the outbound inventory data table now, we will do the same thing, adding our first connection to warehouse and our second connection to storage location. All right, so that's actually it for our new data structure to support our warehouses and our storage locations. When we add an inbound inventory record, we will select a warehouse that this belongs in, or that where the product was actually received and where it's being stored, and then we'll simply just select a storage location as well, so that we know that this actual inventory line item here, which is an iPhone 15 Pro that we ordered from Phones for You, we ordered 100 of them, and they are currently inside the back room of the Tech Galaxy Storage Depot. After adding in some data here for the other two records in this data table, the same thing is true for the outbound inventory data table. For every single record or line item that exists inside this data table, we need to know where it was pulled from. Now, in the previous video, when we created our pages, specifically our form components, to add an inbound inventory record and to add an outbound inventory record, we created some automations in the Rules tab under Record Rules to make sure that we were grabbing the connected product and supplier for every single record that we create in this form. Now, this is fine to do it this way. We can build this style automation inside of our form. However, as your application begins to grow, you would find that you would need to rebuild this automation in multiple forms if you have multiple forms to create outbound inventory records. So I'm going to disable this rule for now, and I'm going to update and save that particular page, and we're going to rebuild that rule inside of the data builder. We'll navigate to our outbound inventory data table, and then we'll navigate to the Rules tab, because this is where we want the rules to be applied. For every single outbound inventory record that is created or edited, or just edited, in this case, we're going to do create or edit. We can then ensure that the product, the supplier, the warehouse, and the storage location are all coming from the connected value of the inbound inventory records values. So we'll set this to the connected value of the inbound inventory product. The supplier will be connected or get the value from the connected inbound inventory supplier. The warehouse will get its value from the connected inbound inventory warehouse, and the storage location will get its value from the connected inbound inventory storage location. Headed back to the records tab here, you can see that our warehouse field and our storage location field are blank for all three of these outbound inventory records. However, they are all connected to a specific inbound inventory record in which those values do exist. Since we created our rule here in order to run on create or edit, I could simply populate these values by editing the record, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to grab those values from the connected table. So we'll do that for the other records here inside the outbound inventory data table in order to populate those values. Now I realize we're going through and we're doing this kind of retroactively, and it will make more sense once we actually build out the pages to support this functionality, but just wanted to show you kind of what this looks like when these records are created and the logic behind the scenes. All right, moving on to the page builder. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new page, just like I did in the last video. I'm going to build two pages actually, just to support the actual raw data that lives inside of our two new data tables. So warehouses will be the name of our page. We'll make sure that we add it to the layout that we have inside of our application and the menu that we have for that layout. And then we'll select the table component and we'll choose the matching data source. I'll then include a form to add new warehouses and a link to view more details about the particular warehouse that we want to look at. Before configuring this page, I'll add one more page for storage locations so that we can see the same data but from a slightly different perspective. So we have our storage locations data table is selected, and we will add a new record form and a link to view more details. For our warehouses page, we will configure these two child pages similarly to what we did in the other pages here inside of our page builder, where we have a form to add new warehouses. We'll just remove these fields and we'll just create kind of a new format here where we only are including the warehouse name and the address. On the warehouse details page, we'll reorder some of our fields, and we can update and save that detail component. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually restyle this a little bit more, where we're going to, let's say we're going to split this column or this row in half. We'll have two columns that are right next door to each other that are equal width. And here I'm going to show a single map of our warehouse address. This will automatically pull our address from our warehouse record and display it on a map. And just like in our product detail page where we showed the inbound inventory records and the outbound inventory records for the specific product that we are currently looking at, we can do the same thing for the warehouse details where we can add a table to show the inbound inventory for the warehouse, where we can see the product, supplier, what we ordered, and its current storage location. We can also do the same thing for outbound inventory, where we are showing all of the relevant data for the particular warehouse, where we're showing the product, supplier, customer, outbound quantity, and the storage location in which the product moved from. Now, this perspective that we are viewing the data is we are looking at a particular warehouse, and then we can see all of its contents, specifically where those contents are currently stored in and where they were moved from. We're going to do a similar setup for the storage locations here, where first we'll just clean up our form to add a new storage location, which all it really needs is a name. On the storage location detail page, we can again just clean up our form or our detail component here a little bit, and then we can add those two columns and those two tables once again. So the inbound inventory that has been taken in for this specific storage location, and the outbound inventory for this specific storage location. Now, at this point, we've built the two pages that we need to actually display the new data that we have inside of our application, the warehouses and the storage locations and their respective details. But we still have yet to build the form or modify the form to manage our inbound inventory. Now, just to recap slightly here, we need to track the warehouse and the storage location when an inbound inventory record is created, which means we need to add these two fields to our form component that manages the creation of these records. The outbound inventory table does not need anything done to it because we are populating these two values, well, rather these four values, product, supplier, warehouse, and storage location, are being populated through a table rule automation to grab the value from the connected inbound inventory record. So all we need to do is make sure that the data is correct and exists in this data table in order for it to be automatically set in this data table. Headed back to the page builder, we're going to go to our inbound inventory page, which has our form to add a new inbound inventory record. And on this form, we will simply just add our warehouse and our storage location connection fields. And we're going to make sure that these are required here. Update and save, and that's now complete. Now, there's likely to be some variations in how your processes work. For instance, in this example here, we are assuming that when a new inbound inventory record is created, meaning we are creating an order from a supplier, that we will know what warehouse and what storage location these products are going to exist in when they are actually received. Now, that might not be the case for you, and if not, that's fine. What we can do in that case is simply just add another page or another form, such as an edit form, where we could then assign those warehouses and storage locations once those products are received. So let's head to our login page here, and we'll preview this page, and let's log in here using the user record that we created last time, admin user record here. We'll log in as the administrator here, so now we can see our new pages that we created. So we have our warehouses. Clicking on a detail link for that warehouse will then show us all the information about our warehouse. We have the detail component here that shows us the warehouse name and address, and then our map component over here, which shows the address on a map. And then we can see all of the inbound inventory records that we have had for this warehouse with the storage locations where the products were being stored, and then the outbound inventory for the same kind of information. What product left from which supplier, where did it go, how many left, and where did it leave from. Our storage locations let us see similar information. However, we're going to kind of narrow our field of view a little bit so that we can see, okay, we want to look at storage location A1 and we want to see all the data that was related to storage location A1. So we can see we've had MacBook Pros stored here in this warehouse, how many were stored here, from which supplier, so on and so forth. And then the same thing over here, right? Which products actually left from this particular storage location. I'm realizing there's actually one more change I want to make here, which is on the inbound inventory and the outbound inventory data tables, or anywhere where we're showing that particular data inside of our application. And I think it also exists here in the products. We want to make sure that we're displaying those new columns that we have created. So I forgot about that. Let's go to the page builder, product details. Let's add those two columns to this table. We'll add those two columns to this table, and we'll just go through the rest of the pages and make sure that we are not missing that information anywhere. All right, and now we can just simply refresh our published application. You can see that these new columns that we created in the data builder are now visible inside the page builder and these table components. Right now, at this point, the kind of foundation at this point, the base features for warehouse management are now complete inside of this inventory management application. Now, of course, there's uh, there's so many different avenues that you could take from this point forward in how you customize or adapt this kind of concept to your specific use case. But like I said, the And now at this point, the base level functionality for warehouse management and storage location management is now built inside of our inventory application. Right, so you can take this piece of the puzzle, we can simply add it onto our existing inventory management application, and now we have a whole new set of data that we can create and manage inside of our inventory application. Of course, there's so many different avenues and paths you could take to customize this particular functionality further or adapt it in a more specific way for your business or your organization. However, we're really focusing on just the foundational stuff in this series and specifically in this video on how to build out these particular modules or pieces of functionality inside your app. All right, so in our next Tadabase Blueprints video, where we continue to dive deeper into this inventory management system, we're going to expand our outbound inventory data table, specifically the actual ordering process for the products that are leaving our facility. What does that ordering process look like in regards to the customer? Additionally, we'll be expanding this table to support transfers, such as internal or external transfers, so that when we move products between our own locations, that we are counting them appropriately against our total on hand. All right, so thanks so much for watching the warehouse management add-on for inventory management, and we'll see you next time. Take care.